Have you ever wondered what would happen if you were floating in the cold, empty void of space and suddenly got a tiny rip in your spacesuit's glove? If you believe Hollywood, the answer is simple. Your hand would instantly swell up like a balloon, your veins would boil, and your fingers would literally explode into a shower of cinematic debris. But does real physics actually work that way, or has science fiction been lying to us this whole time? To find out, we don't need to build a multi-billion-dollar rocket. We just need a high-powered laboratory vacuum chamber. And, of course, our favorite, incredibly brave test subject, Bob the Stickman. Right now, Bob is perfectly fine, standing in a room filled with normal, everyday air. You see, we are all constantly swimming in a heavy, invisible ocean of atmosphere. Even though you can't feel it, the air around you is exerting a massive 14.7 pounds of pressure on every single square inch of your body. That's about 1 kilogram of force pressing down on an area the size of your thumbnail. The only reason Bob isn't crushed into a tiny Stickman pancake is because his body is pressurized from the inside, pushing back against the atmosphere with the exact same amount of force. But what happens if we completely destroy this delicate balance? Let's have Bob slide his hand through a specialized, airtight rubber seal on the side of our vacuum chamber. His body is safe on the outside, but his hand is now sealed inside the glass dome. When we flip the switch and turn the vacuum pump on, it doesn't create some sci-fi portal. It simply sucks out all the air molecules inside the glass chamber. And as those air molecules vanish, the external pressure on Bob's hand rapidly drops down to zero. This is where things get weird, very weird. Almost immediately, the moisture and sweat on Bob's skin will begin to bubble violently and boil away. No, the chamber isn't heating up, the room is still at a comfortable room temperature. What Bob is experiencing is a mind-bending physics law. The boiling point of any liquid is determined by the pressure of the air pressing down on it. At normal sea level, water needs to be heated to 100 degrees Celsius to boil. But as the air pressure drops to zero, the boiling point drops with it. In a near-perfect vacuum, water boils at room temperature. So, if Bob decided to spit on his hand before putting it in there, that spit would literally boil right off his skin. Now, if the water on Bob's skin is boiling, does that mean the blood inside his veins is boiling too? Is Bob's hand about to explode? Take a deep breath, because the answer is actually no. Your cardiovascular system is a highly pressurized, closed loop. Our skin, muscles, and blood vessels are incredibly tough, elastic, and self-pressurizing. They exert more than enough physical tension to keep your internal blood pressure high enough to prevent your blood from boiling inside your body. You will not explode. Hollywood lied to you. However, just because Bob's hand won't explode doesn't mean this is a walk in the park. In fact, it is going to hurt a lot. Without those 14.7 pounds of atmospheric pressure holding his flesh in place, the fluids, water, and blood inside Bob's arm are going to be violently pulled toward his hand. The vacuum behaves like a giant, super-powered suction cup. It will feel like the most intense, crushing blood pressure cuff you've ever experienced. Within seconds, Bob's hand will begin to swell rapidly, expanding to nearly twice its normal size as blood pools in his fingers. His skin will turn a deep, angry reddish purple. Even worse, the suction is so intense that the tiny, delicate blood vessels near the surface of his skin called capillaries will begin to rupture. Under the immense stress, this leaves behind hundreds of tiny, painful red spots called petechia, causing immediate and severe bruising. And there is one more unpleasant surprise. As the moisture rapidly boils and evaporates off Bob's skin, it steals his body heat. This process of evaporative cooling is so incredibly efficient in a vacuum that Bob's hand will suddenly feel absolutely freezing cold. If Bob keeps his hand in there for too long, the lack of oxygen-rich blood flow will eventually cause severe tissue damage. Fortunately, Bob can just hit the emergency release valve. As air rushes back into the chamber with a massive whoosh, the atmospheric pressure instantly returns to normal. Bob's swollen, purple hand will immediately deflate back to its regular size, and he can safely pull it out of the seal. He survived, but his hand is going to be incredibly numb, heavily bruised, severely swollen, and aching with a deep, freezing cold pain. That will take several days to fully heal. So, while you won't explode like a space horror movie character, sticking your hand in a vacuum chamber is still a terrible idea. Don't try this at home, and keep Bob's painful lesson in mind the next time you dream of visiting outer space without a glove.